the world of, are we rolling?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So the world of fiction, nonfiction, creative nonfiction, it has all quite drastically changed in the last few years. What we used to think of as just like a pure fiction book or a pure nonfiction book has, the genres have really blended a lot, right? And this is a good book. This one is a really good example. This is about one of the best examples I can find. It's a really cool book. The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And in fact, what it's called it's called a spiritual fable, right? So when you read this book, it kind of reads like a nonfiction. It reads like a true story, but it's actually would be classed as creative nonfiction. And it's exactly what you're talking about when you're trying to explain what this children's book is. And actually, children's books, very interestingly, are more and more crossing this genre because we want people to learn, right? When people read a book, we want them to actually learn from the book. And so creative nonfiction is actually a very clever way of doing that, because it reads like a true story, but then the creative part of the creative nonfiction allows you to bring in, characters or narrative, or to flower up the background of the story. So it's actually a very important genre that's becoming more and more popular. And there was quite a lot of controversy when this genre sort of first came into the market. It was Million Little Pieces. Because it was presented, right? It was presented as a true story, and then when it came out in media interviews that it was actually a fictional story. There was a lot of controversy about that, and that's when they actually labeled this genre called creative nonfiction. It might have even been, part of that particular process that happened for that particular book. But so creative nonfiction, and it's a great tool that you can use, and particularly in children's books. But I see it a lot in spiritual books, and one of the reasons I see it in spiritual books is because a lot of people are afraid of spirituality. They're afraid of the narrator, of the author telling them this is fact, right? Because it's like, well, I don't want you to decide, my spiritual beliefs or my religious beliefs or whatever. So the creative nonfiction side of things actually gives this this sense of safety almost, right? It's like, well, it's not all fact. Some of this can be fiction, or is it? And the Celestine Prophecy is a really good example of that as well. Alchemist, absolutely. Even some of these we've seen in movies, like the Geisha book. What's that Geisha book called? The Confessions of a Geisha, was it called?
Right.
Yeah. And and that was written by a man. And they actually thought that was a geisha that wrote that book from a true life experience. And when they discovered that it was actually a man that actually wrote that, and it was virtually a fictional tale, but of course I'm sure it had that element of truth to it, the element of so creative nonfiction is a really important genre that you should consider. And particularly if you are children's books, or if you are a sensitive subject where you think that potentially you might lose the reader because they'll think of you as the author of the narrative and say, I'm not going to read this anymore because I don't believe what this author's saying, or it's just not working for me personally. The creative nonfiction really gives you a lot of tools that you can use, a lot of tools. And if you think about the books that are the award-winning books, these are the kind of books that win awards, because they take all of the benefits of fiction that make the story so much more interesting, but at the same time you've got this element of truth that kind of weaves through the whole story, and so then you're kind of like, is it real? Is it not real? and it's very thought-provoking. So it's so that's typical of that particular question. What kind of book it is? You think it's a very simple answer, but actually it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. So.
Well, that's what my book is then.
I'll take one of those too.